Well, hello there. As you've noticed, we don't have our bells and whistles to start off the podcast today, but I am Frances, and joining me is Deanna, and this is the Hilarious Humanitarians podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hello, Deanna.
Hi, hello there.
How is your closet today?
Oh, it is quite comfy. Temperature is just right.
All right, so have you put up any Christmas lights at this point yet?
I just actually started putting out my Christmas village. It is a new tradition, a very expensive one, actually. I'm quite surprised, but yeah, and I have no regrets.
Oh, I was
None.
talking about inside your closet.
Oh. Other than my Christmas socks I'm wearing, no, but that you just gave me a really great idea. So I might have to string up some lights pretty soon here.
All right. Well, it is kind of fitting because if you were listening today, we were actually kicked off the holiday season by releasing all of our podcasts on Black Friday. And we're going into the holidays, many of us with a new perspective on them. And that's what we wanted to talk about as we're getting ready for the holidays in 2017. But we all know that this will last into infamy in the podcast world. So don't just apply it to this year. But Deanna, you and I were talking about this kind of behind the scenes, trying to plan it out. And there are people that are going into the holidays season, myself included, where it's going to be a little different.
Yes. What we want to talk about for this episode of our podcast is how the holidays may be different this year if you have experienced any kind of loss. That could be the death of a loved one. Maybe you're going through a divorce, a separation, you broke up with a boyfriend or girlfriend. It could even be the loss of, maybe you moved to a different state or city, so you lost the community that you were living. We just really want to talk about how we can manage our, emotions to the best of our ability and our expectations of what the holidays have felt like in the past, kind of leading up to this holiday season, how we can manage our expectations so that we're just being mindful of our current new normal.
I like how you say that, new normal, because we do have to be aware that once those losses take place, we don't want to go back and erase history, but things do have to change and we have to adjust to those. And I don't think we need to go through the holiday season necessarily feeling completely down, but to fake it completely would be a lie to ourselves, and that never ends well.
Right, exactly. Just to kind of start off, I wanted to share with our listeners and you. I actually recently, yesterday on my Instagram, I posted that it was the 8-year anniversary of my mom. She passed away from breast cancer on November 18th of 2009. So my mom and I were very, very close, and with her passing away during a time 2 weeks later, you're in the full swing of things in terms of the holiday season. It was really, really tough for me. I mean, I would say the first at least 3 or 4 years, I'm a really festive person. I'm pretty colorful. I love decorations and presents and the whole bit. And I don't know if I want to go as far as to say I was in a depression. It wasn't so much that. It was just leading up to the holidays, I had what we call kind of in our field that, that anticipatory anxiety and feeling really down and just not feeling into it. Have you ever experienced that yourself?
Yes, absolutely.
Frances?
I've had a couple of losses of relationships, and then those first holidays afterwards were rough.
Yeah.
And then my mom died at January 14th of this year. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Right.
And because my perspective on this is actually kind of, I guess, opposite. And I'll be able to explain why coming up. But I know you had a reading you wanted to share, right?
Right. Stick with me. It's it's about a minute long. I found this quote on Reddit a couple years ago, and man, I wish that I had read found this quote I don't know, maybe a year or two after my mom died. It is exactly what at least I personally needed to hear and continue to need to hear and read. So I'm just going to get into it. It is about grief. The username is G Snow on Reddit said, "All right, here it goes. I'm old. What that means is that I have survived so far, and a lot of people I've known and loved did not. I've lost friends, best friends, acquaintances, coworkers, grandparents, mom, relatives, teachers, mentors, students, neighbors, and a host of other folks. I have no children, and I can't imagine the pain it must be to lose a child. But here's my 2 cents. I wish I could say you get used to people dying. I never did. I don't want to. It tears a hole through me whenever somebody I love dies, no matter the circumstances. But I don't want it to not matter. I don't want it to be something that just passes. My scars are a testament to the love and the relationship that I had for and with that person. And if the scar is deep, so was the love. So be it. Scars are a testament to life. Scars are a testament that I can love deeply and live deeply and be cut or even gouged, and that I can heal and continue to live and continue to love. And the scar tissue is stronger than the original flesh ever was. Scars are a testament to life. Scars are only ugly to people who can't see. As for grief, you'll find it come in waves. When the ship is first wrecked, you're drowning, with wreckage all around you. Everything floating around you reminds you of the beauty and the magnificence of the ship that was and is no more. And all you can do is float. You find some piece of the wreckage and you hang on for a while. Maybe it's some physical thing. Maybe it's a happy memory or a photograph. Maybe it's a person who is also floating. For a while, all you can do is float, stay alive. In the beginning, the waves are 100 feet tall and crash over you without mercy. They come 10 seconds apart and don't give you time to catch your breath. All you can do is hang on and float. After a while, maybe weeks, maybe months, you'll find the waves are still 100 feet tall, but they come further. When they come, they still crash all over you and wipe you out. But in between, you can breathe. You can function. You never know what's going to trigger the grief. It might be a song, a picture, a street intersection, the smell of a cup of coffee. It can be just about anything. And the wave comes crashing, and in between waves, there is life. Somewhere down the line, and it's different for everybody, you find that the waves are only 80 feet tall or 50 feet tall, and while they still come, they come further apart. You can see them coming an anniversary, a birthday, or Christmas, or landing at O'Hare. You can see it coming for the most part, and you can prepare yourself. And when it washes over you, you know that somehow you will, again, come out the other side, soaking wet, sputtering, still hanging on to some tiny piece of the wreckage, but you'll come out. Take it from an old guy, the waves never stop coming, and somehow you don't really want them to, but you learn that you'll survive them, and other waves will come, and you'll survive them too. If you're lucky, you'll have lots of scars from lots of loves and lots of shipwrecks. I have the chills.
Oh, right in the
I get
feels.
the chills, right? Like I have like the chills so bad right now that it hurts. Like I'm in physical pain. But okay. So that
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I mean, we're therapists. I've read so many books. I've talked to so many people. I've never read anything really like so powerful. It just really hit me.
It's
right?
perfect.
Yeah, right?
So Deanna and I didn't share this with one another beforehand, and so it is hitting me for the first time as I listen to that, and I could identify relationships that it actually applied to, and then as I mentioned, the loss of my mom this year. So I think that's beautiful, actually. So
right.
Thank you for finding that one and holding on to it. And I guess I'm happy to have it at this point in my life than later on to kind of hold on to.
I mean, seriously, I found that probably, I don't know, like 2 years ago, I think. I saved it. I've printed it out. I've probably gone back and read it. Like, read it. That's funny. I found
Because it was on
Reddit.
Reddit.
Sorry. I have read it probably 30 times, like, since I found it. And it gives me strength, like, every time. Like, it's like reading it for the first time, every time.
Yeah. Okay. So random side note, just because we like to sprinkle in the levity here. If you are looking for a great holiday option, the Reddit gift exchange is amazing. So just go to reddit.com, and it's one of my favorite.
Too?
Yes, it's one of my favorite things to do around the holidays. So if your holidays are looking like they're going to suck this year, you just go and sign yourself up for the Reddit Secret Santa.
Okay, if I did not love you as much, like how can I love? I'm like so in love with you, Frances. I didn't know you knew about the Reddit gift. How did we miss this?
I don't know.
am obsessed. Yes.
I'm currently charging my cell phone. I'm currently charging my cell phone on the little battery pack my Reddit Secret Santa got me last year as we're talking in the studio. So
that is awesome. Have you done the what is it? Like you can also sign up to send even more gifts to people, but you can't you're not going to receive any extra.
You are that person. No,
yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah, no, I echo everything that Frances says. Like, if you are just like, if you're in like a situation where you're like, everybody really, really stinks, at least this year, just, oh God, yeah, the Reddit Secret Santa exchange is awesome. And I love going on to see like the celebrities that, like Snoop Dogg does it, right?
So does Bill Gates. He gave someone a cow. Well, actually, he gave him a stuffed cow and then donated a cow to like a family, and
right
in some third world country. I would kind of hope he'd kick me down a computer, but that's me.
Oh my God, that just made my day. Okay. All right.
So here's how the Hilarious Humanitarian podcast works. We just went from something that was like stabbing you in the heart to, Bill Gates gave away a cow.
Welcome to our brain. Yes.
So to turn it back though to the holidays and trying to approach it, I think that was a great reading on trying to understand the way grief works. And somebody can give you the whole clinical model on the stages of grief and all of that. And I've also read that was actually made more clinical than it should be, because you don't necessarily move through the process the way they talk about with the stages of grief, and you go back and forth and this and that. But the reality is that time is going to continue past, and if you live, you're going to lose people in one way or another. So going into the holiday season, we need to be kind of aware and loving of ourselves, and also understanding that people around us may be going through that same struggle and we don't even understand and we don't even know, because a lot of people don't wear that right across their forehead that things are different this year. That's why we wanted to bring that up, especially with the timing that we're kicking off this podcast. So for you, I know you had mentioned to me off the air, like the holidays with your mom, they were a big deal, right?
Oh, huge deal. In fact, growing up, my mom was Jewish, my dad wasn't. So in our household, we celebrated Hanukkah, Christmas, Easter. Like, I tell people, like, I didn't grow up religious. I grew up festive. Like,
I like that.
Yeah. If there was something to celebrate or a reason to like give someone a present, like my mom went all out. Like, she was the mom who like would like hide in bushes just to hear you talking to your friend about this like thing that you wanted, and she'd have her little notebook like jotting it down so she could surprise you on your birthday, with this thing that you only told your friend that you wanted, but somehow mom found out. And she was just like the ultimate like holiday mom gift giver. So I definitely like inherited that. And when she died, it was like like I said, the first couple of years, it was like not only did she die, but it really felt like every tradition, everything that I experienced as her daughter kind of like died with her. I know that sounds really, really heavy, but those were my feelings, at the time. And it wasn't until a couple years later, at least 5 years later, I started to kind of come around and get back into the mindset of like, you know what? I'm taking the holidays back. Like, this truly is what my mom would have wanted for me. She would have wanted me to be happy and celebrate. And so that's where I find myself now. But it definitely, it was a transition for sure, and a bumpy one.
See, for us growing up, I remember the holidays being big. I'm one of 6 kids. And so, holidays were a big thing. They were fun. As I got older, though, this is going to be kind of a little hard to talk about. But anyway, the last 4 years leading up to the death of my mom, like the holidays were always shrouded in, okay, mom's going to get sick. Because there was, it's like the first year, like, oh, this is unfortunate. And the second year, like, wow, that's coincidental. And then the third year, you're like, Mom, you're starting to do something that you're not taking care of yourself. And you're kind of sort of, knocking the dominoes down at a particular time. So around November, because it always worked out this way, my dad would go hunting around November. My mom would stay here. And it was the one trip my dad always takes every year. He's like 75 and just went. And she'd start to get sick. And the lead up was she would stop taking care of herself. So my mom had been a kidney transplant recipient when I was in college, but when I was around 8 is when we really figured out she was having kidney failure. And that's the same thing that killed her mom. And she was on dialysis and all that, and then on the transplant list forever. And she was diabetic, and she was absolutely terrible about taking care of herself. And so we always saw, as my dad was starting to, those last 4 years or so, starting to go out of town, that we knew it was coming. Like I said, the first year was an unfortunate thing. The second year, we're like, wait a second, what's going on? And then as the holidays would approach, I would get more and more angry. And I love the holidays, like Christmas cards and decorating and presents and planning Secret Santa and Christmas Tree Lane and all the peppermint chocolate stuff and all of the things, right? Gingerbread houses and everything. But I would start to get angry. I got angry because I had children and I wanted my kids to enjoy the holidays, but we never knew, is this at this Christmas, is mom going to be back in the bedroom? Because the last few years of her life, she was living in a home basically, but she was young when she died. She was only 65. And is she going to be coherent? Is she going to be sick? Is the ambulance going to take her away again this year? Right. And so I would get so angry, and not outwardly angry, but I would just start to stew. And then I would start to get not paranoid, but just really anxious. Like, what's it going to be? And because I just didn't want the holidays ruined for my kids. Like, right. It's hard enough when grandma's sick, but like, how do you explain that? And how do you explain the fact that, there were a lot of things wrong, but a lot of things could have been alleviated by taking better care of yourself,
Right. That can be really frustrating,
right.
Especially when you feel so out of control with, you can't control how other people are taking care of themselves, but it affects you. And so was there anything like during that time, like, did you like make up like any like different traditions, like in addition to hanging out with your family that you did with your kids? Like, how did you kind of navigate that?
Well, from the time my kids were small, I mean, we always, Santa shows up and Elf on the Shelf and the decorations and all those things. And I think this last year, though, the way it worked out is the year before this last year was the last year my mom was at home really for Christmas. Like we picked her up and brought her home. And then this last year, she was back in a pretty high-level care facility. And so it was the first Christmas she wasn't home. And so I was 33. Like the first Christmas, we didn't have mom at home. And in a lot of ways, it was much more calm for all of us. I mean, it sucked, but it was like, at least we're not worrying about that. And then afterwards, my dad and I, my kids went with their dad after we did Thanksgiving or Christmas rather. And then my dad and I went to see my mom. And I just realized this, like Christmas was the last day I saw my mom alive. And so this year going into it, there's relief, to be honest. My mom was sick for a really long time. And so once she finally died, I could stop being angry at her and just miss her. And
right. No, I can completely relate to that. As much grief as I, went through and the shock and everything with my mom dying, it was strange. Like, I mean, I was like a teeth clencher. Like I grinded my teeth at night. I had really bad insomnia when she was alive and she was sick. She was sick for 8 years before she passed. And it was like overnight, like when she died, like I stopped grinding my teeth at night because this it just felt like
impending
this weird
doom.
Impending doom.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're constantly waiting for this phone call, and so when you finally do get the phone call, it's just a very strange, oh God, I don't even know what the right word is, but it's a strange dance of like emotions. Like, okay, well now I'm crying and anxious because now she's gone and it's so definite,
Yeah.
But you're not having insomnia, or at least I wasn't, staying up at night going, oh my God, am I going to get this phone call?
Right. Yeah.
I think it's interesting hearing your experience and then, hearing my experience, because really what the overarching theme here is that like grief, whether it's losing somebody like they've passed away or losing a life that you once had because now your loved one is sick and now things have changed and things look different and they feel different. It's experienced differently by everybody. The way I have grieved my mom, I have a brother who's 2 years younger than I, it's like, how are we so different? We grew up in the same household with the same parents, but I'm very, very expressive, whereas he not so much. And I'm not even going to say it's because he's a guy, because honestly, I've known guys who are very, very expressive as well when it comes to grief and loss. But at the end of the day, like, you just really need to take care of yourself, be mindful of these emotions, and then also know that whatever you're feeling right now is not forever. It may feel that way because it is so intense, but it is not forever. So, like in my case, like looking back and thinking, God, there were a couple years there where I'm like, I miss Christmas, Hanukkah lady with like, walking around with lights all over my body as well as
Yeah.
my house. And I mean, for years I would request to work on holidays. I didn't even want to be around anybody. I just wanted to work, come home, hang out with my dog, get takeout, watch a movie, go to sleep. It's just so different now. It takes time for you to have a different perspective or different feelings. I'm not saying you get over it, not at all. It becomes different over time.
I think it integrates into your story in a different
Right.
way. And maybe initially it's a bigger part of your story. And then it starts to, it's still part of your fabric, but it's not the highlight, if that makes sense. I did want to say one thing you asked me when I was kind of going on my diatribe about my mom. I've had some other losses in there too, significant relationships that had come to an end in like this last Christmas. Sometimes I face those things with humor, and I think that's what makes you and I get each other so much. So, like for instance, for several years, my ex and I, we would go to dinner with his family, like the in-laws, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we would go to a really fancy dinner, which I would never go to on my own because I'm cheap. So, so we would go to a really fancy dinner. Well, last year was the first year that wasn't going to be happening. And so I went to a Raider game on Christmas Eve instead. So I went with a friend of mine who has seats in the black hole, and he wears spikes and they paint their faces. And we tailgated and we went to a Raider game. And that's what I did.
My dad is going to be so jealous if he listens to this podcast. That is awesome, actually. That's great.
Well, and it just, and I was really honest about it. Like, I needed to be honest with myself. I needed to find the laughter in it because otherwise, I might have been able to like drown in the sorrow of it. And it was just like, like, how different can my life be? And then this Christmas, like I'm looking forward to sharing it with my kids and someone amazing. So it's just kind of the way life works out. But I wanted to read this that I found the other day, and I had reposted it and shared it. And I think it's what you were talking about a moment ago where like the grief passes. And this is from an Instagram account I follow. It's a Mindful LMFT. And it says, don't worry so much about falling apart. It's where you'll learn the most about yourself. And in the caption, it says the following, quote, and then I fell apart and it was the most beautiful moment ever because right then I realized I could put the pieces back together the way I wanted them to be. We learn the most about ourselves through our struggles. We learn and grow from our lowest of lows when we're challenged beyond belief. When we doubt that there's any way to go on. Sure, we can learn and gain from our successes and our highs, but there's nothing like growth and wisdom from our most painful moments. So often we try to avoid the pain. We run from it, we avoid it, or we bandage it up, when we should be opening our eyes to the wisdom that is trying to work its way to us. The mess and the muck is where so many gifts are hiding. It's through the uncovering of it that we step into a new space in our journey. It is our growth. It is our moment. It is our graduation to the next level and version of pain. Embrace it. I know it feels terrible, but embrace it. Look in all of its corners. Open yourself up to what it's teaching, and you will learn so much about yourself if you just let it in. If you're falling apart right now, it just means that you've been given an opportunity to put it all back together in a more beautiful way.
That is incredible.
Right? And it's much like your other one.
I have the chills again now. Yeah. Now I'm in pain again. I have the chills. No, that is awesome. Like, I cannot, completely agree, wholeheartedly agree. I always say that, like, pain, I'm not going to say this as eloquently as the person that wrote that caption, but I'll try. Like, pain is like the professor that we read on Rate My Professors is this horrible, awful, mean, horrible professor. Pain, and we all try to avoid that class. I don't want to take that class. At least for me, my experience has been Payne is the professor that, like, you never wanted to take their class, ever. You would have rather done anything to avoid that class. But it happens to be like you go to that class, you're in it, you suck it up, and then you just kind of open yourself up to the whole experience and the teaching. And it always ends up being that, like, you learn the most from that professor.
That was my blood and history class, some social science class I had to take in undergrad. It was the hardest class I've ever taken.
Right? Like I can really, like, look back, like, college years, high school years, and like the first couple of weeks where I'm just like stewing and just like I hate this teacher. They're miserable. I hate them. This content sucks. They suck. Everything sucks. And then, like, the second I just, like, kind of go, okay, take a back seat, Deanna, like, with your, like, negativity. Just chill out. Just listen to what the professor has to say. And then I got to really know that professor. I ended up learning the most every single time. I think it's because you just, like, you're pushing yourself. You push yourself. You're out of your comfort zone, and then, when you're done with the class and you realize, like, oh, my God, I'm on the other end of this, and I survived, and I'm okay, and I've learned a few things, it's so powerful.
Absolutely. And like you said, you have to be willing to kind of go with it. Like if you're swimming upstream, roll over on your back and go with the flow, like,
right.
Because you're not going to win. And I think pain and adjustments to the holidays and new things when you're coming into the holiday season is important. So one of the things I always have to tell, I'm much better at telling other people, and I have to remind myself of this, is that you need to give yourself some grace and compassion. Like it might not be pretty, but you'll get through it. The only way through it is through it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
100%.
shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you can have some fun in, find your own Raider game.
Exactly. Whatever that looks like. My Raider game was seriously sitting on the floor of my apartment a couple years ago with my dog. I put Christmas hats on my dog. Till this day, my sister-in-law, she still references, like, this one video of me singing to my dog, and, like, she still brings it up, and, like, that was my Raider game. Like, going home, being by myself, just chilling out, and just doing what I needed to do, like, for myself in that moment, And the next year it was a little bit different. Next year it was a little bit different. Whatever. Find your Raider game. I love that.
The other thing is, I challenge you to watch Elf and not be happy.
That is great advice. I love that movie.
I'm kind of a professional at this mental health thing. I don't know if you know.
The more inappropriate suggestion along with Elf is, have you ever seen Bad Santa?
Bad Santa. Oh, yeah. My God. Okay, so
I love that movie.
I'm going to give you my quick Bad Santa story. So I went to see it, and it's very clearly an adult-only movie. And
yes.
I'm with a friend when the first one came out. And think of the opening scene in Bad Santa is Billy Bob Thornton as Santa throwing up in an alley. And then you go through about, 20 minutes, 25 minutes to the part where he hooks up with the hot chick and she's, bouncing up and down saying things to Santa. And that is where the family got up and took their 8 or 9-year-old out of the theater.
No. Oh, no. No. Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, what's that ride home like?
Oh, God, that is hilarious. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, disclaimer. If you're going to watch Bad Santa for the first time, please don't let your children be in the room. But
nowhere near it. All right. So, Deanna, as we're getting, closer to the end of this podcast, Mark, is there anything else you kind of want to wrap up as we're wrapping up this conversation about how the holidays might look a little different for you and how to get through it?
Be patient with yourself. I would just say take it. Sometimes we take it day by day. Sometimes we take it hour by hour. Just know that things are going to be a transition for you. Be patient. Know that everybody does go through this. There are people out there that have been through something similar. So if you need to reach out for extra support, people are definitely out there that can be a support to you. And just know that you are loved and things are going to be okay.
I know. As cheesy as that sounds, it's true.
It
They
really,
are.
yeah,
And
right.
and one thing I want to throw in there too is if you're somebody who knows somebody that this is going to be a tough holiday season for, my suggestion is don't don't approach it like, oh, it's all different, or oh, we're just not going to bring it up, because the reality is then you're just ignoring it. But one of my favorite phrases, I guess I realized it out of necessity after the fact in my own circumstances, was if you have a friend that, let's say it's their first holiday without a parent, or they just broke up with somebody, or this kind of thing, I would just say, like, look, it sucks and I don't really know what I'm supposed to say here, but I'm around if you want to talk, or if you want to go watch Elf, or go frolic down the Christmas tree like lane or whatever. But just to kind of be understanding of the people around you, and that they might be going through those circumstances, and to kind of, if you love them, let them know.
Right. You know what? I'll take it one step further. I completely agree with what you said. There are people out there who they're in a tough time. They're having a tough time. They're in a tough spot, who are able to reach out. But if you're like me, I was one of those people that would hear from my loved ones, like, call me if you need anything, or, call me if you want to hang out. And I wouldn't call, so I don't know. Ultimately it's up to you, but what I've kind of applied in my life is if I'm aware that my friend is going through a transition, has lost a loved one, broken up with a girlfriend or a boyfriend, whatever, going through a divorce, instead of me saying, call me if you need anything, I'll just send them like a Christmas or holiday card in the mail, even just like a just because note. I have a neighbor who has chalk outside all the time because she has a young child. I'll write like messages to her on the sidewalk, like, hi, I miss you, hearts, or whatever. Leave cookies at their front doorstep if you don't feel comfortable, maybe you feel like intrusive by knocking, whatever. That can be an option too.
And it's extra points if you show up dressed like Buddy the Elf.
Oh yeah, please. That's awesome. I would have totally let that person in.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Deanna. Podcast number 3 in the books.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for listening, and we hope that you come back.